Hi everyone, my name is Corie Schweertman and I'm the founder and executive director of Continuous, which is a capacity building company. For the past 2 decades, I've worked in education and I've ranged in roles from the classroom to provincial leadership. And along the way, I've learned something about leadership and growth that has changed the way I think about capacity building. Today, I want to share that insight with you. Leadership is not about titles, it's about influence. Whether you're working with young children or you're working with senior citizens or somewhere in the middle, if you're working with people, you're influencing them because you're supporting them and you're guiding them. Anytime you're in a position of influence, it's not about are you a leader, it's how are you leading. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. I want to bring you to a moment that you've likely experienced at some point in time in your career, and if you haven't, you most likely will. All of us are shaped by this road. We're shaped by expectations and opportunities with the hope that we're going to arrive. I myself was the same way. I truly believed that if I worked hard, I would succeed. And if I worked even harder, I'd be promoted. And if I worked harder again, I would continue to be promoted and I would have more influence and more impact. And I started to rise and climb a ladder. And it was like a leadership ladder that I was climbing. And I moved through a lot of different positions. And as I moved, I had a different weight to carry. So in my mind, I really felt that I was achieving the success that I was looking for. What I had noticed is along the way, people would congratulate me. They'd say, "Congratulations, you did it, you're gonna make change." And I was very excited. In that moment, I truly believed that I would. And with each iteration of promotions, I received more weight and more responsibilities. But the truth was, I wasn't ready for that responsibility all the time. Sometimes I was, but not always. And I didn't necessarily have the skill set to carry the weight that I was responsible for. And it became very heavy. With every position, with every change, with every climb, more weight came and more responsibility came. As that weight came, I found myself doing what a lot of leaders do, sometimes sitting quietly in a meeting, not expressing ourselves, or driving home and decompressing with a friend on the phone. We start to think about all of the things that we did well, what were our successes, what were our challenges, and what were our wishes. And we begin to discover that we don't have all of the skills yet, and we need to build them. And we spend a lot of time trying to figure out how do we enhance those skills. So you work harder, and you work into the night. Your work-life balance starts to shift. Everything starts to change because you feel that you are responsible for all of this impact. And for whatever reason, we take it on our own. And through that silence and through that process, I learned that it actually is in relation with others that my growth was activated. And the more I connected with people, the more I learned with them. And the more I learned with them, the more I understood about leadership. Leadership, we have to move away from trying to have leadership as a target that we have to reach, or we make it just out of reach, something that we're always chasing. Whether it's on performance or achievement, we're always working towards climbing that ladder and achieving the next stop. What happens is we promote people before they're prepared. We don't always give them the support that they need. And eventually our workforce is burnout, or we have people that are promoted in positions that are not quite ready for those positions yet. Sometimes we actually promote so often that we miss the vital step of raising the skill set around relations. That brings me to my philosophy, is you have to lift before you lead. And when you lift before you lead, it's about expanding awareness, building skills, strengthening resilience, activating relational support, and creating emotion across a variety of dimensions. Lifting is literally the gravitational force that intentionally energizes the conditions for growth. The problem is how we lift. At this point in this presentation, all of you are saying, absolutely, we agree. Absolutely, Corie, we are definitely lifting already. We do that. When we see a team that needs to be inspired, we hire motivational speakers. When we see staff members that requires a little sharpening of skills, we hire coaches and consultants. When we want to, when burnout strikes, we get resilient workshops and we bring them in. Or when we have funding for initiatives, we create mentorship programs because we want transformational growth. The difference is not that we're lifting. All of that lifting is good work. We spend thousands of dollars to raise the capacity of the people that we work with because we want the best for them. We want them to grow. We want them to be able to have meaningful impact in their work, their lives, and their communities. The difference is we're lifting in compartmental ways. They're individual moments. They're not collectively. We're focusing on achieving those results, working towards those performance pieces. We're not working towards raising capacity as a whole. Once I figured out the importance of lift, I knew I needed to create a framework to support it, and so that people would be able to understand exactly what I was talking about. Because when we lift, all of those scenarios that I just explained to you, that you're all already doing, you actually are lifting to empower people. You lift to strengthen them. You elevate your systems. You elevate each other. And you are very successful at transforming things. But what I'm suggesting is that when we lift in linear ways, we actually develop a recipe for stagnation. That means that our motivation tapers off. What I'm suggesting is that when we lift intentionally, and we start to move away from the linear, individualized supports that we're putting together and start to really think about how we're going to cultivate the conditions for growth. And that means moving towards more of a cycle of growth. So when we empower people, we want it to orbit around the lift. We don't want it to be in individual climbs of a ladder. We want to strengthen our skills, and we want to strengthen our workforce and our organizations. And then we want to elevate it. And we want to elevate it through moments of reflection and really having some conversations about what's working well and what's not, and what can we do that's different. And then finally, we want to move through transformation. We want to transform our organizations, ourselves, our teams, and really grow. The irony of this beautiful dimension is that once you create the conditions for growth, the cycle will actually repeat itself and it will create a momentum. But lifting is like strength training. It's not something that you can do right away. Imagine when you walk into the gym, nobody walks in and lifts the heaviest weight on day one. What they do is they have resistance, they have support, they have time, they have rest. Well, leadership and capacity building are the same way. They need all of those things to create the conditions and to keep the momentum going. We have to lift before we ever get the title. We have to lift so we move away from authority and performance and we start to move towards the practice of growth, the practice of cultivating the desire to learn and to bring out the best in ourselves and one another. So what I propose with my Growth Continuum framework is that we move away from the road that we've all traveled, hoping that we'll eventually one day arrive. And with each progression, we receive more weight, which of course involves getting more skills, enhancing our skills, and then moving up that ladder again. What I'm suggesting is that we actually go through a regenerative growth that raises the capacity of ourselves with compassion, others, our systems, and our shared future. Leadership doesn't happen in isolation, and it doesn't happen in moments. And when we lift in a collective way, what actually happens is we raise the capacity and natural leadership emerges as a byproduct of capacity building rather than the other way around. My growth continuum is a living cycle that never stops. The lift is the nucleus. The 4 dimensions orbit around it consistently. And with each transformation, it feeds the next cycle of empowerment, meaning the growth never stops. You're in a continuous cycle of growth. And as the lift activates these conditions, growth moves through every domain. And these are all of the people we touch: ourselves, others, our systems, and our shared future. Continuous collective regenerative growth never stops unless the lift stops. Leadership is not built in moments. Capacity is built in cycles. Thank you very much. If your organization is going through the process of capacity building and you'd like to consider how would you cascade it across all of the dimensions and how would you create those conditions for growth, I'd be happy to connect with you. Thank you for your time.